We got there.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah. What is going on?
I don't understand why it didn't work the first time. I was honestly pressed it about 5 times. It just like kept taking me out, and then as soon as it got in, I don't know. I don't get it. I seem like every time I do this, I have to restart my phone or something.
Oh dear! I can hear you this week, which makes a difference. That's one of the main things I heard off people last week. Was like I couldn't even fucking hear Jonesy.
Yeah, but I'm holding it right up close to me, with phones. So it's one of them where, because the other day I had it down on the table thinking it'd be all right, and clearly not. So yeah, my bad.
I'm trying.
I could do like a neck brace for my phone or something, so I can hold it with my neck or something.
Yeah, not a bad idea. I'm gonna try and think of it as well. Stop fucking slavering like a dog. All I could hear on
someone told episode. You that.
No, not people. But when I listen to it back, all I've heard is me just going. All I can fucking hear, I was like, it's fucking going right through me. If I'm fuck's sake.
Imagine if somebody told you that. Stop slavering like a dog on your podcast, you disgusting fuck.
That was it. I heard that, and then I heard people just saying it's too long. But I listen to podcasts that are like fucking 5 hours long. Do you know what I mean? So I'm used to that. But
yeah,
one of the critiques.
I mean, we're still new to it, aren't we? So, it's hard to. It's going to be hard to get it right for the first few times, but I think it's been all right. I've enjoyed it. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the main thing. Exactly. Well, we're jumping into this one with your favourite subject.
Absolutely. Why the fuck you picked this is beyond me. Like,
again, I said it on Saturday. It weren't my idea. It was Carl's. It was kind of Carl's idea, but he said the right wing thing, and I thought, like, oh yeah, I like that. Who makes it with right wing politics? But he's kind of backed out, and he disappeared. And then
he's left us with a shit. He's left us in the shit.
No, it's not exactly like we're highlighting or laughing or pointing fingers at left or right wing politics. I just thought it'd be interesting to find out more about it, because you hear them terms, and you don't really get where it's come from. Like, I'd ask you, like, when you hear right wing politics, what do you think? What is the first thing that pops in your head?
Concern.
Deep concern.
Yeah, I think the thing is I think as times evolved, far right politics has been pushed further out of the mainstream, if you like. I tell you what I remember. I remember when UKIP had a big share of the vote in 2015. Do you know, in the general election?
Yeah.
And it actually ended up with. I actually looked into this before. It actually ended up with 12.6% of the vote in the whole share of thing. Now, at the time, their position wasn't very well. I don't remember them being like ultra racist. Do you know what I mean? Like, not like the BNP or the National Front. They were just anti-Europe, EU effectively. So they were effectively just like a pro-Brexit party. But you look at some of the things included in what they did, and it was very suspect. Like, very suspect. So I always remember I did like an advertising campaign saying, "Oh yeah, look at like." This is all the people of the UK. They were literally just all white. Like, there was nobody else of any other race or religion. They were just all white people.
Jesus Christ.
So that was it. And then Nigel Farage obviously stood out in front of that.
Yeah, I think for modern day politics, I think that's the first name that you link with, isn't it? Really, that's the first in terms of like the mainstream white right wing. Because I think what we're kind of talking about is just right wing, like not right of centre, not far right. Because if he was on far right, then we were talking about like some fucking deep racist, and it's like there's no point talking about them because everyone's got that same opinion of them. Do you know what I mean? So there's no real point in looking that deep.
Yeah.
But I think the most mainstream kind of right wing is definitely Nigel Farage. That's definitely the first name that pops up. But I was looking into it because I thought I knew what it meant, but I didn't fully have an understanding. And apparently the first time it was used was in the 18th century during the French Revolution, and what it described was left and right was either you were on the right side of the presiding officer, which was like le président, or the left side. The right side were supportive of institutions and the monarchy, and the left side were against the monarchy. So like vive la révolution. So do you know what I mean? That was like the first time that we used, and I've never really linked that. I've never really put that together as like right wing makes you more nationalist and thinking. I don't know why it makes me sound stupid now, because it's like, yeah, everyone you know who's like fucking. If you see someone who's like pro right wing on Twitter or anything, they normally have like the British flag in the name and stuff, don't they? They're really like nationalist.
I think it's I follow a few on both sides, but their priorities are different. You look at left-wing politics; it's very much supportive of, very much supportive of everyone. Whereas I think with right-wing politics, it's very much supportive of the economy. So I think it's all about, not losing money, not finding potholes, trying to sustain effectively, whereas left-wing politics is all about supporting the people that we represent. So I think, honestly, there's good things and bad things from both sides. I know that's very neutral and easy to say, but it's like I'd take more of a left stance now than I have done in the past, definitely, because of the industry I work in. Obviously, I work in a care industry. So I want to make sure that everybody's okay. But yeah, it's we see it in even today with the spring budget with Rishi Sunak's budget. It's all well and good saying you're going to increase national tax rises to cover the losses, but the losses outweigh the benefits. So you're still going to be left anyway. Do you know what I mean? You're still going to be left in a rut anyway. And this is where the support comes. And I think there's plenty of opportunity. There's plenty of people that don't pay tax that can afford plenty. And it leaves everybody else in a rut effectively. I think that's where my politics has gone. I've got a huge bitterness towards billionaires. Personally, this might sound daft, but I would personally make it illegal to be a billionaire, because you don't need to be. Nobody needs to be a billionaire.
I don't think if you started a political campaign and just started that, like, just fuck the billionaires, I swear down you'd get a few votes. If it was literally just like, no, ban billionaires, blah blah blah, and that was the agenda of your party, I think you'd get a few votes. Because when I was looking through all this kind of stuff and just having a little look about right wing and left wing politics, the main separation was everyone's kind of left in the middle, and then you just have these people who are just rich, just like fucking raining their ideas all over us, and it just seems like a class system rather than anything else. That's what seems to separate people the most.
But this goes back.
They use these terms to kind of separate us all. Do you know what I mean? Like, we'd probably all get on a lot if it weren't for them going like, oh yeah, but got all these immigrants coming in, and then someone else was saying like, oh no, you can't be saying that. But you know what I mean? It's as if it's a class system over anything else.
Yeah, I think
billionaires that would say.
When you strip it back, some people even have the opinion that if you're a billionaire, they should be entitled to it because they earned it. That's absolutely insane for me personally. Nobody in their life has earned being a billionaire. I'm sorry, it's not possible. It's not possible. Do you know what I mean? I get they've got there, but I personally don't believe they've ever made it there. I think some people work their bollocks off on like 16 grand a year. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, how can anybody earn being a billionaire? It's not on. Do you know what I mean? But look, I mean, this is why I didn't want to do this podcast, because it's just like some people are going to think, don't know what the fuck he's talking about, like, and stuff like that. So I don't want to do it. But
we're going to start your campaign after this, like fuck the billionaires campaign. You're going to start putting posters up all around Thames, like fucking fuck the billionaires campaign. Get the ball rolling.
No, but do you know, it's one thing you picked up on then. So do you remember Brexit vote and 2018? No, I think it was 2018.
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago. It happened just before COVID, didn't it? So everything pre-COVID seems like ancient history now.
So just on and off topic, the news in the last few years has gone from Brexit to COVID to the Ukraine war. There's always been something to continue it. Oh, well, Russia's made a European football bid. I didn't realise that. That's just come straight out of the blue. That's fucking hell. That's a bit ambitious.
Very ambitious.
Speaking of right-wing politics, But, but yeah, going back to what I was saying. So after obviously Brexit, the kind of Brexit party, and well, was it called? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Was it Reform UK or something? But they were investigating. So Nigel Farage and his donor, I can't remember the name of his donor, were investigated through like Facebook targeting methods. So they basically picked an age range. I don't know if you remember this, but they picked like an age range similar to ours. I think we were included in it at the time, and we were targeted for Brexit and leave UK, and
But our age range, I thought that would be aimed at people older than us. I thought it'd that like 45 plus bracket.
No, I think what it was, I think they felt like they'd get a fair share of votes from that. So what they were trying to target was trying to manipulate minds of the younger mind, and that's where this whole 52-48% is disputed in terms of the Brexit vote, is because people were, people between the ages of say 17 and 30 were targeted through, sponsored ads, Twitter ads, if you ordered food ads, I'm sure it was Leave UK, Leave EU, I think it was called. But yeah, so they would push that, but not only would they push that, they'd really slander people, like, and if somebody got caught out, like, so like they'd make attacks on like Labour MPs. They'd even attack Conservative MPs, which I must admit was a bit of a shock. And I saw people in the comments put things like, "Oh yeah, don't attack. We're on the same page here." But because they were that pro, Leave EU, that they just didn't care. Like, they were merciless with this approach, which I think bought, the right wing voter bought into that nature, and really characterized it and pushed it forward. I
think in our like in recent times, I think that's probably the biggest vote that separated like left and right has definitely been the left were stay in the EU, the right were leave the EU. That seems to be the biggest.
I think it's the biggest vote of our lifetime. I wouldn't say it's the biggest in terms of like right wing and left wing politics. You've got to remember, like, the British National Party had like 55 seats, I think, in a governing position at one point. Now you sit back now, and if you saw that, you'd laugh your head off, thinking that's a disgrace. That's an absolute disgrace. But that happened. That's like 20 years ago. That actually happened. So I think politics has come a long way. I think it's definitely progressed for the better. Is it great? No. There's plenty of room for improvement, but I definitely think it's progressed much better now than what it was, 20 years ago. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say at the start of it, I thought before we go any further, I'd say that we both probably sit centre, maybe centre left, just either centre left or centre really. Because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of, I think I've just seen a lot of stuff from like far left and far right where it's just like mind boggling. Like, you just I block it. I think most of the stuff I just completely block, where I was like, oh God, I just can't be bothered. I want to stay away from it all. But at the same time, some of it is quite interesting. That's why I end up wanting to have a little look at it, because some of it's interesting, but the stuff you like force fed is a bit like, it's unbelievable. Some of the stuff, it's like, Jesus, I don't even want to read that anymore.
Yeah, but, there's still things where you're targeted. I think I've seen people Twitter accounts where they want independence of Manchester, for example. It goes a bit beyond my comprehension. Cause I can't help wonder, but how would that work? It's like San Marino, isn't it? Just be sat in the middle of Italy, just surrounded by another country. But,
one of the worst thing, I don't know, maybe would it? Nah. Well, you have a lot of Scousers say that, don't they? They say the Scouse not English and all that kind of shit.
Well, we'll see how well that goes when that happens.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can have a little Northwest brigade. Just doesn't the Scousers just how you want it?
No.
I'm going to take a note of that you've said that. Jonesy wants the Scousers and the Manx all together.
I just said no.
I just said no.
There'd be civil war in minutes if that happened.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to say. I said, you're thinking in the future, the more this goes, and the more like separate they're both getting, do you think they could end up breaking into some kind of civil war and kind of like more fights on the streets and stuff like that? Because it seems going that way.
It's difficult to say, because I think British people as a whole, they accept too much. You know, we've seen it abroad, especially in France, you know, where they're on the streets about. I remember when they planned to increase the retirement age by 2 years. I think they burnt a load of buildings down and stuff. You don't see that here. You know, people don't react like that here. But it would depend, really. Can I see it happening? No, not really. I think we, you know, naturally we're coming closer together as a community across the UK. I think this is where I think right-wing politics is nearly on its deathbed, effectively, because it was very pro, you know, anti-Jewish as anti-Muslim. So I think it's naturally dying out. But I don't think civil war will play. I do think that civil war will happen in Russia at some point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we talked about that, didn't we? When we talked about the war, we was talking about that. The civil war seems likely, but it always
just on that subject as well. I need to add. So Alexei Navalny, Putin's biggest opposition and critic, yesterday he was serving a 2.5 year prison sentence. He's now been sent down for an extra 9 years. And he's done nothing wrong. The guy has done nothing wrong. Like, he's done nothing wrong. And he's been sent down for an extra 9 years on top of his prison sentence.
I like to think that Putin gave him that and like winked at him to kind of say like, this is a rolling contract. Don't worry. After 9 years, it'll be another 9 years. Don't you worry. You're not getting out anytime soon. Don't worry.
You might imagine him just having a football shirt like 9 years on behind a prison cell bar. Like, 2031 contract there with a Russian national shirt behind a set of bars.
He might as well do. He's not going anywhere else. Gee. Unless he gets liberated. Maybe that might be the moment, like someone liberated him after Putin gets killed or something.
Well, the thing is Russia is built on 5 different countries. The one people are most familiar with is Dagestan. Is because of the people that fight in the UFC. So it's built on 5 different countries. So, not to say that would be the reason civil war would happen. It wouldn't, because, they're fine. But I just think obviously you've got to remember Russian people being fed propaganda where they think Ukraine is the new Nazi party. Effectively. So there's a big divide in Russia about this, and there's conflicting messages. I'm sure people have seen it on the news where they've seen people that don't live in Russia telling their family members about, what you're being told is a hoax and a lie, and they still choose to believe the propaganda because that's the power that it has. People will choose to believe what they're fed, which comes back to the whole, the Reform UK Farage's push for, Brexit. Was there any wrongdoing there? But look, I'm not involved with law or legalities, so I couldn't say anything. So it's interesting, but I do think Russia will at some point. I think it will start with a protest. It will turn into a war on the streets. The police can only do so much. But I think it's just hearts and minds. I think they're changing. I mean, you've got to remember. I think yesterday 220 Russian troops decided they got to Ukraine and chose not to fight. They didn't do anything because they knew what was going on.
Right.
So the longer this goes on, the more Russians are finding out about it, and the emphasis is changing. You've got to remember, Putin wanted to win this war early doors, in a week or two. It's been a month since it started. It's been a month.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And they've not even got on the other side of the Dnieper River yet, so it's crazy. But that's I think in terms of extremist right-wing politics, I think your prime examples is, of course, Russia, China, and North Korea. Myanmar.
I'm going to forward this. I'm going to forward this clip. I'm going to forward this clip and send it to North Korea. Like, see what he's saying about you? He's fucking slagging you right off.
Oh, fucking he's a cunt.
Direct quote.
Absolutely horrible prick. No, I don't care.
You get kidnapped in the middle of the night now. Just sent to North Korea.
Fuck it, never mind. My life insurance in my missus' name, she can have me house. It's sweet. So,
Here's another thing I was thinking about when I was looking at this, is it seemed very, like I was saying before, nationalist and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, like, well, there's a lot of things where I could point towards leaning a bit right. And then I thought, like, absolutely not.
See, I can't imagine you saying that. So, what would be your points to kind of lean towards it then? If you picked any, if you don't have one, it's fine. But if there was anything that you would lean towards from a right wing politics perspective, what would you follow? What would you back and say? Yeah,
You know what? It's not more about the politics. It's more as me as just a person who just like, because after 2018 I stopped, because I used to be super think I used to think I was pretty much left rather than centre, and now I think I'm probably centre. But now and again I feel like I'm getting more annoyed by some of the stuff you come out from the left, where it's just like, let's accept everybody. And I think sometimes you just look at it and go, just fucking come on, give over now. Like, is this not too far? Like, I saw it, and obviously I know you won't want to talk about stuff like, because you like to, like, you know, keep it thingy. But have you seen the swimmer, the trans swimmer?
Oh no! I'm quite happy to talk about this. That's an absolute fucking disgrace. That.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was gonna be much more like liberal on the fence about that.
No. There's no way. I'm all for people should choose to be whoever they want to be, and that's fine. And I completely, I'm totally for that. But what he's done is deliberate. It's a deliberate act. Not only that, the prize money. It's like.
Did you see the? Did you see the? Is it the picture, and it says like something? It's got the same, obviously the same guy, well, woman, whatever, and it'll be like I think it was like 560th in like the men's rankings for swimming, and it's like first for the women's. It's like, this is bad. But it's them kind of things that I keep seeing that's making me feel like I'm not enjoying this, and that kind of stuff's annoying me a bit more than I'm seeing of the right. But maybe that's because I'm not seeing more right wing stuff now, because it's kind of like you said, it's dying a death. So maybe that's why I'm not seeing it as much.
So you've got to be careful with that, because you can't associate that with politics. You can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is why I was
because it isn't. That is just leeching off the system. You've got to remember that kid has been swimming since he was younger. Have you seen how big he is? He's got broader shoulders than most men. So fuck knows how he gets onto the women's competition. That's insane.
I know, it seems insane. And the worst part for me is I think the women in that competition, they would have come out and said, oh, we're fine, we're happy, we want them to be themselves. But it's like they kind of would have been intimidated into that, because they know if they come out and say, like, no, fuck that, I don't want them swimming with me because I've fucking trained a long time for this. They know people will come after them and be like, oh, you can't say that. You know what I mean? They know they'll get people after them and, like, slaughtering them online if they say, like, oh, I don't want them in the same race. But and
this is where, as much as I agree with political correctness, this is where it falls short.
Oh, it does.
It's not good enough. It is not good enough. That he should never have been allowed to compete in that. If he wants to be a woman and he chooses that way, that's fine. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But there has to be boundaries, and competing in the Olympics is not something they should be allowed to do because of the benefits of his physique. Her physique. So yeah, I mean, it's not on. It's really not on. But again, you've got to be careful with that. I wouldn't class that as politics. I'd class it as political correctness. I wouldn't divulge into the information that it's politics. Yeah, definitely not.
This is what I mean. This is what I was thinking. This is what I was going to say though. Like, as a person, like, taking a step back from it all, I don't think it's more to do with the politics. I think it's just stuff you see, and when you get a bit wound up with it, I don't think I would ever anyway. But then I won't go more right anyway. I know that's not in my nature. But I just feel like the more stuff you see like that, I can see why people would be pushed that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of my questions to you was going to be later on. I'll probably just bring it up now. Is it because we both are straight white males? Would you not think you could? Not saying you would be, but you could be just kind of pushed that way a bit. I could imagine a lot of people in our shoes looking at that side and seeing like, white straight men are the fucking devil. They're all fucking rapists. They're all racist. They're all scum. Do you know what I mean? I can see how people would look at that and go, yeah, fucking hell, there's much more going for me over here in the right corner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you've got to answer that in two parts. So first of all, you've got to remember you're in a position of privilege being a white male in any pretty much any country, because that, unfortunately, and I don't agree with this, but that's, we don't put up with what a Muslim woman will feel around here, where she'll get racially abused as she just goes to pick up her shopping for the week. Do you know what I mean? No one will give you that. Or I'm not a black woman, say, you'll get racially abused, or be turned down for jobs because I've not got the experience and stuff like that. So we are in a position of privilege already, I think, personally. Again, people listening to this might say, what is he on about? Or some of them might totally agree with me. Again, that's why I don't like doing politics, because it's all...
It'll probably be the last time for a while, though. It was only because it got brought up.
Yeah, but no, I don't see myself going into right-wing politics. I agree with some of the principles around the economy, and kind of being careful with what we spend. But as you've seen from the Conservative government, expenditure has only been to suit people with a benefit. HS2, 100 billion, don't see the benefit personally. But rich people can get about quicker, so that must be why it's being built. The benefit fraud, everybody going mad on benefit fraud, that was, and all the corruption behind that was pushed aside, but we couldn't feed kids during the pandemic. So you've got to just think, hang on a minute, that's not right. And it's because, again, I personally believe, and again, this is all opinion based, but I personally believe the government is somewhat tying up strings to protect certain people and not everybody, and that's what I can't agree with. I will never agree with that, and I would love to see the Conservatives get voted out at the next election.
I don't think
I can't see it happening though, because so many people are so uninspired by politics, they don't feel represented.
No,
I think my girlfriend's a prime example. She said she's never voted because she's just not inspired by it.
Well, I said, I think I might have said this on the last one, that I don't think I'll be voting next time. I really don't think I will. I don't have any kind of affiliation with anyone at the minute.
I get what you're saying, but people sacrifice their lives to go, to give a vote.
I know.
Emily Pankhurst, who threw herself in front of an horse and died, just to get a vote for him. It's insane. And that's what I think it's, again, opinion, but I feel as if I've got a moral obligation to go and vote because of shit like that. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I have to, even if I don't like particularly think anybody's perfect, or definitely want to vote them, or you go for the lesser of two evils, and which I think a lot of people I feel like a lot of people did with the whole Corbyn Johnson situation. Again, I could be wrong, but I heard a lot of people say they're voting for the lesser of two evils. I feel like I've got a moral obligation to go and vote because of the history of it. But I have no affiliation to any party. No, I just don't feel represented by anyone.
I mean, I'm probably just about in the same boat as you. I think I'm pretty much there the same, really. I'm probably the same as you, might go out and vote, but as much as you might vote tactically or you might vote for blah, 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 I think I'll just pretty much vote for whoever knocks on my door.
I was going to say, mate, if the Monster Raving Loony Party are represented in your territory, then, by all means, I think I'm just going to do that and just sit on a bench for this one. So, I might just vote for them instead.
You raised a good point over it before, because it made me think of it, actually. And I think reading through this made me think of it, I think there's two subcultures now of these right-wing politics, and then there's kind of this second, just an underlying kind of, it's not real politics, it's kind of online politics where they make you believe stuff by showing you stuff. And I think when you look at that, then you think it's pissing me off and you don't like that kind of stuff. But then when he's like, but then you don't look at the policies, there's not a politician out there from a left-wing politician saying we must let trans people swim with, I mean, there's no one saying that out there really. No. It's just, this is what people think. So I think there is some kind of subsection in politics now where there's the real politics, and then there's underlying people trying to manipulate you on the internet. And half the time it's probably right-wing politicians who are flooding it in there. And I always think that. I've always kind of had that in the back of my head, saying actually, even though I've seen that now, I've just seen this. and it's kind of made me go, oh, that's pissing me, that's wrong, that she shouldn't be able to swim with them, blah, blah, blah. Even though I'm thinking that, there's probably a right-wing fucking, like, whatever, server somewhere going like, feed this to the internet, and it'll make people pissed off with that news story, so they'll think like, oh yeah, I'll lean this way. And I think there's probably a lot of people. I like to think I'm above that a little bit, so I've took a step back and I can like separate them two things and go, no, that doesn't make sense. But I think there'll be a lot of people who are that deep into the internet where they won't think that, and they'll think, no, fuck that, I don't want anything to do with that kind of life, so I'll vote
I think
more right wing.
I think like my stepdad, bless him, he's a good guy and everything, but he just believes everything that's put in front of him, and I think he forgets that these are not facts. This is just journalism, So yes, it could be a fact, but it doesn't make it a fact. It's just, it's like if you took like the Sun newspaper, for example, 99% of their journalism is just pure bollocks, but people read that and believe it, but it's just pure shit. There's no facts in it. So, so again, similar to Twitter accounts, similar to news stations, there's definitely agendas there. I don't get it twisted. There's definitely agendas there. And this is why I always say, regardless of what your opinion is, as long as you don't listen to everybody and just take your own approach, because I think people get too caught up in listening to everybody else's shit. So that's when it worries.
When they should only be listening to our shit, just listen to this.
Yeah, I wish. But but the thing is that people. I tell you, the ones that do worry me, people that idolise politicians. They're the ones you've got to look out for, because no politician in the history of man has been perfectly clean. Do you know what I mean? It's always something dodgy. So you've got to be careful with them fuckers. Honestly, they're dodgy. Something I want to go back to though is like Twitter and stuff like that. People have their own agendas, and they can push that. They can push that own agenda. And again, this goes back to potential targeting methods to get people to swing different ways. I think people can swing. I feel like I did a long time ago. I feel like I swung a bit.
Yeah, I think it's easy enough to swing.
Yeah, but it's just, for me, politics, in my opinion, should be there to represent the health, wealth, and betterment of life for every individual of its kingdom or country.
You've practiced that. You practiced that. You've had that line, don't you? You must have been sat on that for about half an hour. You've been waiting to say that. Wait to pull this one out of the bag.
But that's the most. If everybody was healthy, if most people were slightly wealthy, and they had a better life where they were happy and not struggling with mental health issues, then clearly everybody would live a much better life. Clearly.
You're getting my vote. I tell you what, you're getting my vote. I think this party could start the ball rolling, Get a few votes on this.
Mate, I'm not being a politician. Jesus, man. Imagine the hate mail I'd get. You fuck ugly, you've got a shit haircut, your nose is shite. Just imagine the hate mail I'd get. No, I'm good. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think this as well, and I always do this. I always have little notes that I take down, but then I end up going so far off topic. It's like I might as well not took any notes. But I think, with Boris Johnson, he gets all this shit, and he gets a lot of it. Like, don't get me wrong, and he probably deserves a shitload of it because he gets paid a lot.
He does.
What is in it? What is in it for him? What's in it for him now? I sit there, me sometimes, and go, "What's in it for him?"
Well, so you're missing a key factor. You're missing a key factor which has been represented and highlighted in the last couple of months. So obviously Rishi Sunak, who's just done the not bill but spring announcement. But you've got to remember, a lot of these MPs have got businesses alongside their current occupations. So, and this is where a lot of MPs, one that I follow personally is Zara Sultana, a Labour MP in Coventry. I think really good. That's somebody I can listen to and think, yeah, I agree with most things that you say. I see her Twitter account and I do kind of think, yeah, I do kind of believe in what she's saying. Not everything, but most things. But you've got to remember, like Rishi Sunak's businesses alongside in tandem are worth millions. So I think where some people ask the question, how does it benefit being an MP? Well, two things. One, you can manipulate the decisions in terms of how it can betterment your own companies. Two, it gives you the platform. It gives you that social representation where people think, who's the Chancellor of the Exchequer? Oh yeah, it's Rishi Sunak. Oh yeah, that's that there. Yeah. So it gives them that flag. It gives them that, them titles, entitlements of empowerment. And obviously with such empowerment comes, manipulation. I remember this is one of the things I really loved about Zara Sultana, actually, was the fact that when she first came into politics, when she was elected, she actually said that she had like gifts from Google and Apple and things like that. How dodgy is that? But
very.
What she didn't just accept it and think, yeah, fuck it, I'll make sure you get off tax-free. She called it out in the Commons. So that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. But that happens on a regular basis. And this is where I think people are a bit naive in politics. And it's because they sometimes... well, first of all, is it true? I don't know. I'm just taking someone's word for it. I think if someone's calling it out that they've received a gift and they're saying they don't want it, I'd have to kind of feel it's true. Do you know what I mean? It'd be a bit fucked up just to make that up.
So, yeah, it'd be outlandish.
But this is for me, this does touch on right-wing politics, is because bribery is clearly a big thing even now.
Probably also,
we saw a couple of years ago, we saw the expenses row, with MPs claiming. I remember one, he claimed like 40 grand to put his fucking pool out in his garden.
I'd be fucking straight in that pool. I'd be washing up liquid, whatever it takes. Scrub that pool.
People my left and right in these terraced houses that I live in don't fucking earn half of that in a year.
Yeah, fucking hell.
I mean, up until recently, I didn't earn half of that in a year. So it's insane. I don't get it. So that's why it winds me up. Don't get wrong as well. Nobody was innocent in that right-wing politics, left-wing politics. Nobody was innocent.
Oh no, they never.
Everybody in politics was a cheeky bastard for that. And then not only that as well. Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't forget. They've given themselves so they're due to announce another £2,000 per annum pay rise, in which I think they already had one or 2 years ago. Someone will have to correct me on that, but they did have a £2,200 pay rise very recently in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, it's lucky for some.
So their salaries are rising with inflation. Nobody else's is though.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So, yeah, it definitely answers the question, what's in it for them? And the main answer is fucking money. Just a shitload.
Yeah. Well, if I'm being succinct, it's money and platform.
Yeah, money and platform.
It's like a stage. You've got to remember, I mean, look at Nick Clegg now, who used to lead the Liberal Democrats. He's like an ambassador for Meta, which is obviously the shit name for Facebook.
Oh, Jesus. That
let me actually, let me just search what his title is now. I can't remember it. I think he's like foreign affairs correspondent for former deputy. Oh yeah, he was a deputy prime minister. How could I forget that? Shit.
Yeah, John. Yeah, they were all bungled in together, weren't they? Fucking yeah.
Oh,
Jesus.
Who has been president for global affairs at Meta Platforms this year?
Jesus.
Global affairs. I mean, the guy was a shit MP.
Mark Zuckerberg, isn't he? Mark Zuckerberg getting his fingers in all these pies. You see thingy, what's it called? Harry Pimlet shouting, calling him out. Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Take your fucking head off, Mark Zuckerberg. Fucking business. Quick side note. Quick side note on UFC. The fucking boy did he? Makayev fucking smashed him as well.
Oh mate, yeah.
What's that? Never watched it.
He absolutely cleaned it. But I followed Mohamed Makayev for a while. I think there's something about where if you're a mixed martial arts or boxer, you're from Manchester, I just have a genuine interest in that person. I want them to do well because they're from it's like your next door neighbour doing well in it. And obviously he's been fighting. Do you know? I mean, he does wrestling. He's done it at Olympic level. But yeah, like he's when you see him training, and obviously he's done well. I followed him for a while, and to see him do that in his UFC debut, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a UFC expert, so don't quote me on it, but. Yeah, it was top. It was absolutely top. So,
I was the same. I've never been into. I even tweeted Makayev as well, actually, because I tweeted him saying like, "Fucking, I hope he wins because it's my first ever time watching UFC. No idea what was going on, but I had no idea what's going on. But I think everyone can appreciate if someone fucking knees another guy in the jaw, you know he's gonna fucking hurt.
Oh,
so
mate, yeah.
Fair play.
The thing is with that, it don't matter how big or small you are, does it? If you get one of them in the fucking jaw, it's gonna hurt, mate. Honestly,
it's fucking excellent. The thing was as well when he had him around the neck and then the other guy lifted him up, slammed him down. I thought, fuck, Makiev's fucked it here. And I thought, hang on. The commentator's saying like Makiev's still winning. I thought, how's this work?
To be honest, though, it was the same with Paddy Pimblett's fight, wasn't it? When he got
he got
took it very well. So,
I'd love to see them two fight. I don't know if that would ever work. I don't know if they're in the same weight or even close to the same weight or whatever. They're in the same division.
No, definitely not.
I love that'd sell a stadium. That would it.
That'd do. So. I think from Manchester's perspective, I know Brendan Loughnan's been calling out Paddy Pimblett, so Brendan Loughnane is another Manchester UFC. No, you don't fight on the UFC card. There's the alternate. Again, I don't know my mixed martial art fighting very well, but he fights on another kind of. So like Dana White, there's another one, and then he has his own. He fights on another one of them, but he's been quick to call out quite a few times. But no, I don't know. I think like a Manchester Liverpool card would be I don't know what they'd be more violence in the octagon or in the stands. Fucking mate.
The fucking cameraman won't know what to film. He'll like, there's a decent scrap in the fucking crowd instead. Get out.
But sorry, we'll go back to the subject because we're going off on one.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll head a bit more right, because when I was doing this research, I'd never heard of these before, and I was wondering if you'd ever heard of these before. The British Union of Fascists, right? Founded.
That's actually something I'll have to insert. That's actually something that's picked up on Peaky Blinders at the moment. If you watch that, so they.
Oh, I'm not up to date with it.
Yeah, so they. I've definitely. I heard of it prior to that, but yeah, that's something. If anybody watches Peaky Blinders, they'll be very aware of that name.
All right. Well, I never heard of it because I'm not up to date. But it was formed in 1932 by Oswald Mosley, and it had 50,000 members at its peak. And that straight away, that name, the British Union of Fascists, I was like, Jesus Christ. They were going on marches. They were just fucking hated everyone. They were going on like 100,000 people marching against them. So they were always kicking off. Apparently, there were riots all the time. Every time they went out, they had a really, pretty much a terrorist group called the Black Shirts. And the Daily Mail ran an article just before the BUF collapsed. The Daily Mail ran an article saying "Hurrah for the Black Shirts" in support of the BUF. Mate, it was anti-Jewish, anti-everything. But then, obviously, the way the World War was going on.
Let me leopard never changed its spots.
Yeah, fuck me, do they not? Jesus.
But as soon as you said the Daily Mail reported it, I just thought, yeah, fucking hell, that makes sense.
Yeah. But there were obviously more. They were the League of Empire Loyalists, and I was like, gee, when I was going through them, I was like, how many of these groups are there? And they're all just fucking. The weird thing is that Oswald Mosley, he's a Labour MP, which caught me off guard. I thought, hang on, what's going on here? He was originally a Labour MP. I think he did end up walking the floor and going to Conservative, but I think he was a Labour MP to start off with. But they only seem to collapse because of the World War. I think I think they were hoping that Hitler won, and they'd have been like, "Yep, we want you. Don't worry. We've been flying your flag for a while now. Don't be worried."
Yeah, but you've got to remember, politics has changed dramatically. So, the Labour was all about representing working class people, and to somewhat still is. But obviously, working class people would involve right wing and left wing politics in our day. Do you know what I mean? So that I can understand it from that perspective. You'd never get away with that now. People more wise, more educated. So he'd never get away with that now. But yeah, to say that 100,000 people joined a protest in terms of that is baffling, isn't it? But then when you look across the world, you see very similar things. I personally think, and it's not a fact, it's just an opinion, but I think when you look at if the bigger the gap between rich and the poverty line, so take a country like Brazil, for example, if you look at England compared to Brazil, the poverty line between the rich and the poor is a lot smaller than Brazil and, say, their richest people and their poorest
Yeah.
people. You know, because Brazil has billionaires and they have people that have nothing, like absolutely nothing. Like whereas, and I'm not saying this is everybody in England, but in England there's people that don't have much, but they're putting housing. You know, they're given, you know, tax credits to help them get by. They're given universal credit, so which is great, and I totally agree with that. And there is still people like homeless in the UK. I totally agree, but the gap between the richest and the poorest is slightly, you know, smaller. And I think because of that, you know, you kind of, there's not this like huge far right, far left politics. And I think the further you go in these countries, the further you go with your far right, far left politics. You know, so it's crazy. I mean, you've seen it. So, I mean, certain countries are a prime example of that. Certain countries don't have a choice. You know, Myanmar, Belarus, Russia, obviously. You know, I'm naming ones that people probably aren't aware of, but you know, the countries where you don't have a choice. But yeah, I think the bigger the bridge and the gap between the rich and the poor, I think the politics becomes more extreme. That would be the way to summarize it.
Which kind of links back to what I was saying before about it seems to be more of a class issue other than anything else, and it seems to be that the power that be seem to be using that for their own kind of agenda and splitting us all up a little bit. But it was interesting. I found a load of them, but pretty much all these parties formed the National Front, which is obviously probably more right wing than the BNP, and it seems to come slightly more left to become the BNP because it seems to have a lot of the same members. But I think their biggest wave was probably in the 70s and 80s, and this is where I thought it probably a bit of a link. It did seem to have some links with football hooliganism, and I think a lot of people nowadays, and it's again something else we brought up in that last hour or whatever, we was talking about how if you go more right, there seems to be more like you white male, and it's like football, and it seems to be pushed towards the football, and it's the more right you go, it's like right football away days, right hooliganism, and then once you're into that, then it's like right, well, come and have a look at this BNP. This is what we do every weekend. You know what I mean? Against different like groups of people.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. One of the prime examples. I remember. I think. Do you know? It's funny. I was with Carl actually. I remember doing a night out in town, and I remember like there was a big bunch of lads outside, and we were trying to drum up support for the EDL. You know, trying to get people, you know, like getting them involved. You know, started doing like mad things, but like, trying to get
they're like football chants as well. They kind of use that, don't they? Because I remember when I was probably 14, I remember being in town and getting caught up, and all the chants were like Al Qaeda, Far Streets, and fucking EDL. It's like what's going on here? And I remember getting caught up in it and walking along at like 14, no idea, didn't even know what was going on in the world anyway. But you just march with all these fucking men marching, you're like, what the fuck? And I just caught up in it. Walking around, the roads all blocked off. You were just walking around for ages. Eventually, you got pulled out, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing walking with them? I was like, I'm not walking with them. I'm trying to go to fucking Piccadilly or something, like lost as fuck. But again, it's that same thing. It's all marching around, chanting these songs. It's like, I can just imagine. It seems like an easy sidestep. That it seems like you could get dragged into that, where you pulled into this vortex of you love going to a football away day, and then also it's like a few of the like other more right wing ones are like, oh, we go for a scrap after games and blah, blah, blah. And then after that, it's a bit like, oh yeah, we also are part of this. And then they start them chants. And I was looking at the correlation between the two, and there is even as far as some hooligan groups who are pretty much linked directly with the BNP. But I was wondering if you ever thought that there's a direct link between like that kind of football fan, like, you know, hooligan football fan, and right wing politics.
I think it could be, but I think I've seen it from both sides. So I think like Birmingham, for example, you know, they're the hooligan firm back in the day called the Zulus, but that's because in Birmingham they had a high population of black people as well as white people. So black people and white people united there to fight other firms and kick the shit out of them because they were good mates of one another. You know, it didn't have any. You know, it wasn't. Oh, you're this colour, you're that colour. You know, we fucking hate each other now. It wasn't like that. So you know, for them anyway.
So hooligans are actually more liberal.
Honestly, it's crazy to say that, but yeah. I think probably back in the 70s and 80s, I think you did probably fucking have some like right wing extreme. I think now you'd actually have more like left wing. I think left wingers definitely took a more like not like extremists, like oh god they're going to kill people and stuff like that, but it's definitely more extreme now. And I think I think it's almost as if that could be the way. But look, I mean, it's all relative. I think is again, you mentioned, does it stem from that? Yeah, it probably does. But you can't blame football for economic downturns and neglect and poverty and people becoming billionaires. Football had fuck all to do with that. And football was an outlet for people, and obviously in the UK it was an outlet for violence as well, especially in the 70s and 80s. Still is to some point today, but obviously it's not really a thing now. Like as you look in certain countries like your Russias and things like Eastern Europe, just generally as a whole, where they'll organise fights in like woods and stuff like that actual mixed martial arts fights with each other. So it's nowhere near what it used to be. Definitely isn't.
No, definitely not in this
I think just blaming football for it is just wrong. Like,
it would be. It would be.
Wrong.
I was looking it up, and then when you get down this kind of rabbit hole of researching stuff, and then you just little things pop up, and then you click the link, and then it's like this is linked, and then you go through, and then you just see a name. Well, the name I saw was the Seaburn Casuals of Sunderland. That's the name. Right, I don't know what. Yeah, it must be just a football firm, the Seaburn Casuals of Sunderland.
Can I just interrupt? Another city, Sunderland, I don't know, but another big town or city that suffered big amounts of poverty and neglect.
Exactly. Well, that seems to be a bit of a gateway to it kind of as well. But that was a name that popped up straight away as like a link, and they had like a lot of BNP members and blah blah blah. So it just makes you think, as that little light bulb goes off in your head, and you just think like, oh, maybe there is some kind of link. But no, I don't think there's not a direct link, but there seems to be an overwhelming link that the more right wing seems to be, the less like you were saying, really less economic, like what was you saying, downturn. I think you were using all these big fancy words. Me don't know these big fancy words.
I think if you look at right wing politics now, where it is at the moment in current phase of play, you can use you could use a most recent general election as a prime example. So Labour, for example, people would argue is the left side of politics. People might not think that, but I would generally say I think it is. But it's like they get most of their votes in like town city centres. So London centre, Manchester, Liverpool, obviously places like Sunderland, Birmingham, places like central. And then you look at all the Conservative votes, and they're just like well out of the town centres. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not they're in affluent areas outside of city centres, town centres. Obviously we live in a town centre that's just the thing. Manchester's a bit of a weird one. Manchester's got like 10, 15 towns around it. So Manchester in the centre, it's just got all these towns around it, which we reside in one of them. But as there's places when you go further out of Manchester that are absolutely affluent. But the closer you get in, you notice the poverty again. So So the reason I say use a general election map is because it will show you. The city centres, town centres, and highly populated areas will have a left swing, whereas low densely populated areas will have a right swing. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because migration doesn't affect low populated areas. So migrants won't move to like, I don't know, somewhere like a really tiny village of 50 people because they won't, because there's no
there's nothing there for them, really, is it?
there's no amenities there. There's no, and there's no housing there anyway for them, so they won't move there. So in these villages where you're starting to see, obviously the population's expanding dramatically, these like, let's say, white villages, predominantly white villages, like, hang on a minute, I don't want any migrants in my village. So that's where they're at. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where they're at. Whereas obviously for me and you, I mean, I've grown up in a multicultural society from day dot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm used to it. I'm fine. I was, I was brought up around it, and I've got no issue with that whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? So it's easy for. I think these villages, especially with an older population as well, who are ill-educated on modern day, respect. Well, but not all of them. Sorry, that's a.
No, you said all. You said all. We've lost all them villages now. Our biggest fan base was villages. You've lost them.
Fuck it. We'll bring football hooliganism back and smack them all. But yeah,
have United got a football firm? I don't really follow me football firms. Not since watching that. Do you remember like Danny Dyer? Oh, I'm with the fucking whatever. You go on the streets looking football firm.
I think the thing is, like, back in the day, football firms, they used to name themselves. Like they used to give themselves names. So, like, like just off the cuff, United notoriously was the Red Army. I think Liverpool's was Urchins. I think like Wolves is Yim Yam. Obviously Birmingham Zulu. So they all used to give themselves names. I think now it's just like whoever's fucking game for it. Do you know, like who actually wants to go? Obviously, I'd my United season ticket for a long time before I got promoted, and I couldn't go because of my job. But because I work every other Saturday, every other weekend, I should say. So it financially didn't make sense for me to keep hold of it. It makes sense for me to buy the odd ticket here and there, but it didn't make sense for me. But
you got debts as well, didn't you? I remember you got debts on. I can probably name the date. It must have been in May 2013, the day Wigan won the FA Cup. I remember just on the way back, and I think Carl showed me a picture. It's like, look at Jones, he's been decked. I was like, no.
Yeah, I don't. Not a favourable day for me.
So that was the end of your hooligan career.
I never had a hooligan career. This is wrong.
That's not why you started it.
I didn't fucking start nothing, mate. Nah,
you asked him for a meet up.
I tell you what. I think one of the hardest parts about that was being covered in blood and going back to my mum trying to explain, just make some bullshit story up, because obviously I'd been out during the day, so I got home at not a terrible time. But when I got back, I can't imagine. I remember just being in two minds about, do I go to the hospital or do I just like soak it up and just like,
Yeah.
I think most of it came out my nose, if I'm honest, because my nose was just bent. So my nose is slightly bent now. But it was just like, I got home and I'm thinking, fucking hell, what am I going to say? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? And then when I got in, they weren't there. And I can't remember. I think they were either in bed or they were like at the pub or something, and I couldn't remember. Like, and I just thought, so fucking meant, right, I'll get myself cleaned up now and just go to bed. Like, call myself, this is steaming, wasn't it? But yeah, it's not fond memory, that.
I've never had anything. I don't think I've ever been jumped. The only thing I've ever had is I got mugged once outside of a Snoop Dogg concert. And it was when I was like 16, and 4 lads surrounded me, and he was like, "What's that in your pocket?" I remember just thinking, "This is weird." And I was like, "Nothing." And he was like, "Oh yeah, give us that." And he was just trying to get my phone. I was like, "No." And then he pulled a knife out, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Yeah, you know what they robbed off me? Like literally, like a fucking might have been a Nokia 3310, a packet of chewing gum, and about £2.50. Like at knife point, that's what they robbed off me. And TJ, he were across the road. This is making us sound old as fuck, right? He had a brand new BlackBerry, which I don't even. Some people might be listening to this and not even know what a BlackBerry is, but it was the phone of the time.
Oh,
right? And he must have had about £80 in his pocket. Like, you know what I mean? I was just like, Look me, as if I'd been mugged here. I did not deserve this mugging. I was sensible and didn't bring anything with me. I mean, that and I'm a tight cunt, but I've said that twice now on 2 different podcasts now. I've said I'm a tight cunt.
Yeah, you are.
But, yeah. But look, I've been lucky to avoid all that kind of stuff. Not a hooligan like you, though. Do you know what I mean? I don't go around giving it out.
No, I think at one point there was certainly a part of me that just, I think, like when, say, rebellious, you talk about rebellious teenagers like being like 13, 14 and stuff like that. Do you know, like that's where they turn into a little twat and they always want to just be a dickhead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like obviously because of my kind of disabilities and stuff, growing up, I was always set back, and I always feel this is the reason is because I didn't have like my rebellious phase till I was 19, 20. And obviously I'd already been introduced to, drinking and cigs and stuff like that. So obviously it just provoked it even more. And obviously the biggest part about my life was I go to work during the week and go to United on the weekend. So I'd always thought that was the, the catalyst, if you like, for me going a bit wild with it, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not that anymore. Definitely not.
No, I think we're both central.
Yeah,
we're both central. We're both pretty straight. Both straight-minded. I know you're back to the other team now and again on the weekend. I didn't even target. I was trying to think of the word. What means you just on the straight and narrow. We go out on the weekends, but we don't go too heavy. And then as soon as I said straight, I thought like. Does this mean like sexual preference now? Like, where are we going with this? Yeah. Well, probably a good time to finish. We've done an hour. We need to finish.
If you want to see me perform, I used to perform at Birdcage on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, exactly. See, but again though, it's making us sound old as fuck. Birdcage ain't even open anymore. The people again will be going, that's that? Never even heard of that. Scumbags. Let's wrap it up because we've done an hour, and I've been getting told that over an hour is too long. So we need to wrap it up.
I feel like, just to summarise, that was probably 60% politics and 40% bollocks.
Generous, that, very generous. But I mean, yeah, we'll see you at the weekend maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, happy days. Right. Right. Sign out. I'll catch you later.
See you in a bit.
Later.